Welcome to another edition of the Suburban Driving with Miranda. This week I have a super cool 2021 BMW X545e. That's right, it is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle from BMW. So it's been a couple of years that I've been driving BMW's Active E or E-Dynamic vehicles, but I have never been in one of their plug-in electric hybrid vehicles. That's a lie. I drove the i8 a couple of years ago. Super cool, but obviously super futuristic and not the most practical plug-in hybrid vehicle, although I did fit hockey bags and my son, and I brought him to school every day, which was quite a spectacle. Different story for a different day. BMW X545e. So let's start with the facts, shall we? So it has a 3-liter inline-six engine, and then it has a smaller kilowatt battery, and it collectively produces 300 plus horsepower. That's with the battery and the gas engine combined. And some of the press releases and articles say that you can get up to like 80 clicks of battery range in the car. I don't think that's super viable here in Canada, only because it really changes when you have to turn on the heat and the heated seats. And you know, I had Owen while I've had this vehicle, so I can't freeze my 9-year-old. Try to be a good mom occasionally, so I have to turn the heat on. I was doing a lot of highway driving, and truthfully it did really well despite all that. So the max that I was able to get out of it, I had it plugged into a fast charger at one point, and it told me that it could get up to 58 kilometers. I didn't reach that range. The most I got out of it was about 36 kilometers. I think that's what it had when I picked it up. And I managed to get all the way from its original location almost to home on battery only. So it's highway driving. You all know me at this point. Don't drive carefully. So I wasn't doing slow acceleration or hypermiling or any of that stuff. I was simply driving as I normally would. And I still kept it in full battery mode. Now, of course, down here I have all of the Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro modes that I can switch the car to. So Eco Pro will put me in fully electric mode, given there's enough battery to hold that mode. The Comfort level switches between, it does a nice hybridness between the two, obviously. And then for the Sport mode, which is what I usually put it in, it keeps the engine on 100% of the time. But I will say that in Sport mode, if your battery is depleted, you will regen a lot more battery in Sport mode than you will in Comfort mode. And it really does. So driving this vehicle right now, I am fully out of juice, but I was able to recapture like 2-3 kilometers just by driving on the highway. So it really does help you out in that sense. Now let's talk about the viability of a vehicle like this. So for starters, the BMW X545e does not qualify for any incentives because of its starting price. So it begins at $59,500, I think, which puts it too far above a base price to qualify for provincial or federal incentives in terms of green vehicles. So it's not the cheapest. However, I think that this is actually probably one of the better plug-in hybrids. You know, I got into this expecting to be like, oh, I'll get 20 kilometers of range and I'll have to be doing under 50K and it'll only be good for like creeping around parking lots and slowly pulling up to my house or leaving. And as soon as I accelerate, the engine's gonna kick on and it's just gonna be useless. I was very wrong. This vehicle proved me wrong. And I'm very pleasantly surprised by it. I think you could live on battery only in this car if you planned it right. So here's the thing. One of my gripes about this particular PHEV is the amperage that it pulls when it's plugged in. So I did hook it up to a fast charger. And normally the fast charger, it does what it says it does, it fast charges. So I was sitting there for about an hour and I gained maybe 5 kilometers of range, which is a little bit insane, given that I could do the same thing in our e-Golf and get double to triple that amount in an hour or more because of the amperage that the e-Golf can pull. So the max amount of amps in the X5 is 16. I went through the menus, I changed it, I put it to the max amount, and it's only 16 amps. So that's pretty small, I think, and I may be wrong. I'd like to think I pay attention to these numbers. The max amperage that can be pulled from an EV is 30 to 33 amps. So that's pretty much double the 16 that the X5 can pull. And I I wish that it could pull more, because then it would be that much more efficient. Like, I did plug it in at home. We don't have a fast charger at home. We plug our e-Golf into the wall as well. So I plugged in the X5. It stood plugged for at least 36 hours, I think. I plugged it, I had 38 kilometers range. I had plugged it in empty. So it also takes a while for it to charge from the wall. But again, if you're doing small jaunts, you don't have long distances, you do enough highway to regen as you're driving, I think the X5 is a really good choice for a luxury PHEV. And there aren't that many on the market, truthfully, just like there aren't many fully electric SUVs either. Now, of course, when it comes to the driving dynamics of the car, it is typical BMW. You know, the battery doesn't throw it off too much. It really weights it out. You know, you lose a bit of the trunk space in the back because that's where the batteries are, but like, it's literally a lip like this. Like, you're not losing a huge amount. It doesn't feel overly heavy. It doesn't feel overly burdened. You know, this is a big vehicle because it is an X5, but still, it's not, I don't feel like it's sluggish or piggish or not BMW. It still maintains its BMW driving dynamics, and I think that's super important, especially when it comes to a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. You want to have that feeling. You don't want to feel like you're missing anything simply because you added a battery. You know, you don't want to be missing any power. You don't want to be missing any torque, and you're not in this vehicle. It still does all the things that you'd want a BMW to do, but you save a bit of money at the pumps. You know, I've been driving for a week now on this thing, and I barely touched a quarter tank of gas. And again, this is not a small vehicle, so color me impressed, BMW. You proved to me that you can make a viable, well, not cheap, but worth the money plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Inside the 2021 BMW X545e, you have a glorious standard fare BMW look and feel. I mean, the best part about this interior, truthfully, is the crystal shifter and all of the fancy crystallized buttons down here in the center stack. I mean, if you want to feel super luxurious and fancy in your car, I mean, the only way to do that really is to have crystallized things and knobs and shifters. And I've heard that the sun is a bit glary on it, but being in the winter months, I've not had a huge amount of sunlight to experience that with this. So, and it hasn't gotten too cold either, not that the temperatures have dropped that far yet. But otherwise, I think it's super pretty. It seems like a bit of a juxtaposition. Like, this car is very yin and yang. Like, it's EV and it's, you know, it's a plug-in and it's supposed to be environmental, but it's a big SUV and it's got space, but then it has this really fancy shifter and it's all like plushy and I don't know, it's trying to be a lot of things, and it kind of does all of those things well in an odd way. Now, of course, this has BMW's new HMI system. I love it. I love the big buttons here. It's easily navigatable. It's not confusing. You can also use the touchscreen up here, so you don't have to use the knobs if you don't want to. And then, of course, I have my sport, hybrid, electric, and adaptive modes down here where I can change up how my car is driving. I can also change the suspension. So that's one of the things that the X545e has that the regular X5 doesn't. So it has an air suspension system. And for me, I love it because it makes getting in and out a lot easier because my legs are short. So if I pop this all the way down, I don't know that you'll actually see me moving. Perhaps the lines on the back, you'll notice me going down a little bit. So it's going to adjust itself to now the lowest setting that I have selected. And I can only imagine that is, I don't think you can be in the lowest setting once you're on the highway. It is for egress and ingress, so it's for getting in and out or for loading stuff in the back, which is also really cool that it has a split trunk. So you open up the tailgate and then you can also pop down the lower gate, which I love because it makes loading a lot easier. And let's say you have a longer item to stick out the back, it's almost like a tailgate on a pickup truck. So you have that little bit of like extra space so you can tie stuff down if you really wanted to, leaving the trunk up. Otherwise, like I said, it is really BMW-ish in here. You know? I gotta say, I really like the new look of the X5. I wasn't super taken with it at first, and I thought it had kind of lost its manly edge, but the more I look at it, the more I really like it. It looks a little bit smaller than previous generations, and the lights have changed, and it's become a little bit more angular and tight-lipped, shall I say, but I like it. And one of my favorite features on this particular 45e are the blue angel eye lights in front. It's a super small detail. It's something really small, but it sets it apart from the other X5. So really, unless you spot the charge port on the front driver's side, you wouldn't know that this is a PHEV plug-in hybrid, except that you can see the really pretty blue outline inside the headlights, and I love it. I like the lines of this car. I think it looks muscular. I think BMW did a great job with the front end and the rear as well. The whole thing is just really sophisticated, high-end, turns heads on the road in whatever color it's in. I quite like it in the black. It sets out the blue. It sets like the blue apart. You can see it easily. You know, not a huge amount of chrome or accents anywhere, which is great. It's just really subtle, nice, classy looking car. Guys, well, that's been it for me. I am done with the X545e. I am returning it today, and I am picking up a younger sibling of the X5, but it is just as efficient. So make sure you check back next week to see what I have. Thanks so much for joining me. As usual, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, hit me up at Miss Miranda L on Twitter or Instagram, and Miranda Lightstone on Facebook.com, or drop a comment below on the Suburban On Air Driving with Miranda. Hope to see you guys next week. Thanks. Stay safe.